What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Footballer's Advice. My name is Michael Galullo, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a soccer resume or football CV. What's up, guys, and like I said, welcome back to the Footballer's Advice YouTube channel. If you're new to the channel, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. That way you don't miss out on any more videos like this one here in the future. What I'll also do as well, guys, is on my website, when I have it finished and it's up and running, I'll go ahead and leave a copy of this PDF and Word document up for you guys. That way you can download it for free and put in your information. That way you have a nice resume to put together as well. But like I said, guys, let's go ahead and go into my laptop and check out how to make a soccer resume.
All right, guys, so we're inside my laptop and I brought up the PDF format of my resume. Now, when you guys start out, what you're going to want to do is actually create your resume in a Word document. The reason why I don't send my resume out in a Word document format is because people can change this information. When you send it out as a PDF, no one can change the information. Whatever's on here, it stays like that. And I like that, and that's why I prefer to send my resume out in a PDF format. However, like I said, when you start, you want to start off as a Word document, and then you're going to export it. To export your resume, what you're going to do, once you're finished, you're going to hit File, and then you're going to go and hit Export. When you do that, it's going to say Create PDF Document. You want to hit this, and it's going to create this PDF format for you when you're all done with your Word document. So that's just a little something for you guys if you want to know how to make your resume into a PDF format document. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to scroll through here, just allow you to see everything before we get started. And like I said, once my website is up and running, I'll go ahead and leave a copy of this, the Word document, for you guys. That way you can download it and change the information and kind of input your information. That way you have a well put together resume. And one of the things that you might notice too is that my resume might be a little different from other soccer players that you've seen, and that's okay. Honestly, this resume has worked really well for me with getting tryouts, whether they be here in the United States or in Sweden. And I've had other professional soccer teams, agents, and even scouts tell me that this resume that I'm showing you guys today is a resume that they really liked. They thought it was well put together. So I've stuck with this resume. Again, you guys can change it, and I'll point out some things that you guys can change as well if you want to here in the future. But to get started, guys, like I said, you want to create this document and have your name here at the top. That way they know who you are. And when you're sending out your resume, you want them to be able to get in contact with you. So that's why we have this next section here called Contact Information section. Now, if you guys have your own website, which I highly recommend that you guys do, it's a great marketing tool for you guys. I've used it when I'm talking with someone and they're like, oh, hey, can you send me, your CV or your resume and your highlight video? Well, what I've done is you can create a website for free. This one that I made is through WordPress. And what you can do is you can literally just put your highlight tapes on there and your resume. So you have a copy of your resume and either the actual footage is on your website, or you can link to YouTube where your highlight videos are as well. And that's easy for them to just click, go to your website, see your resume if they want to look at your resume, and then also go down and click the link to YouTube. That way they can see your video highlights there as well. So like I said, that's why I put here contains CV and video highlights on my website, just in case, if I'm sending out my resume and maybe I didn't put the link to my highlight video in the body of the email, they at least have another way to see my highlights. So like I said, guys, if you guys can create a website, it's super simple, super easy. I'll create another video on how to do that, and it's completely free. Like I said, it's a great marketing tool for you guys, and I highly recommend it. Moving on, though, you also want to provide your email, another way for them to get in contact with you, along with your phone number. Now, what I also recommend for you guys as well is to include your country's area code. Here in the United States, it's +1 and then the phone number. The reason why I suggest you include that area code too is if you're using apps like WhatsApp, or if you use an iPhone to connect and contact with different people around the world. I've noticed that when I just put in my phone number, when someone else actually puts in my phone number, sometimes it doesn't always connect the right way. But when you put in the area code, for some reason, it works better. So I would recommend putting in that country's area code. That way, it's easier to text through WhatsApp and iMessage as well if you use an iPhone. So that wraps up pretty much your contact information section. And we're going to move on to your club history section. And this is pretty much just listing out all of the places that you've played. I would say you want to include pretty much from the present all the way going back to maybe max 3 to 4 years, just listing out the teams that you've played for and showing, you know, kind of what happened when you played for those teams. So as you guys can see, this is kind of like a marketing tactic that I've tried to use, especially when I'm sending out these emails, is, you know, state kind of what happened during the season. So, you know, if your team places, you know, pretty high in the season, maybe they didn't get promoted, but they placed pretty high, that's something you might want to include. What I've also done is, I know a lot of players in this section, they'll put, you know, your stats. So if you're a striker and you've scored a lot of goals during that season, say you scored 12 goals, well, this is where you want to put it as well. You want to put your assists and things of that nature. Any awards that you've won can also go in this section too if you want. What I've also done as well is, you know, I've kind of put who was my coach and kind of like their background. This coach here, it's not actually John Smith, but I got to protect his name. You know, back when he was playing, he was the Swedish Allsvenskan top scorer, and he used to play for Djurgården and IFK Gothenburg and Hammarby and stuff like that. And so this also gives people, at least when I'm sending this resume out in Sweden, an understanding of what kind of coach I was being coached under, and, you know, kind of the things that I've learned from him. Like I said, guys, you can try it if you want. I've found it to work really, really well. And, you know, when people see sometimes these big names of coaches that you've played under and, you know, they are respected within the soccer industry, sometimes that can go a long way. And so the same is true, like I said, for the club history down here as well. IFK Lidingö, when I played for them, we actually earned promotion, which was really, really cool. So I've included that as well. Some of the other players, you know, that I've played along with, I've tried to put on here as well. Like I said, it's just kind of a way to separate yourself from everyone else, because a lot of people have good stats and stuff like that, but, you know, sometimes the clubs that you're sending out these resumes to don't really know what the level is like, especially if you're playing overseas and you're coming back here to the United States. A lot of coaches here in the United States may not know about the Swedish leagues and kind of like what the level's like. So that's why I include, you know, another player that I played with. You know, he used to play for the Swedish national team, Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga, and then also a couple top clubs in Belgium as well, with Club Brugge and Djurgården is in Sweden. Another player that I played with, Gambian national team. You know, if you can kind of separate yourself in that way and kind of show like, hey, this is the type of quality that I had around me, and especially if you're a new player, you're trying to contact these teams and the coach doesn't know anything about you, hopefully by him recognizing, okay, you know, he used to play with a guy that played with the Swedish national team, or used to play with a guy that played in the Bundesliga. Let's maybe just bring him in and see what his level's like, because, you know, if you're playing with players that have played at that high level, your level should be hopefully high as well. And that way, you know, you can kind of distinguish yourself from everyone else. Again, guys, like I said, you can include this. I've also seen players include their stats as well. I've tried that as well too. I've just found for me, it worked really, really well doing this, especially when I was sending this information out in Sweden. What I've also done as well is, you know, I've listed some trial opportunities that I've had with clubs, especially when I was overseas in Sweden. This resume is a little bit more tailored to Sweden, just because, you know, coaches are more familiar with who these clubs are. So when I was sending it out, I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and put information that they know, and maybe this will allow me to get better opportunities for some trials. And it definitely did. I was able to trial with a couple Division I teams over in Sweden as well, which was a really cool experience and a really, really nice thing to happen. Granted that it was pretty much, I was sending out cold emails. So like I said, guys, this is kind of listing everything. I've also included my college as well, to let them know, you know, this is kind of the level that I was playing at. Now, coaches here in the United States will understand what the Division I level was like here in the United States. However, coaches in Sweden may or may not know. So you want to just include all the information that you can. Like I said, not going back any further than 3 to 4 years. Before we move on to our achievement section, what I usually do as well, I like to include a picture of myself with the most recent club that I played for. When I was sending this out, this was actually with IFK Lidingö before I went on to go play with Mersta IK. And what you also want to do here is include your date of birth, your height, your weight, the position that you play, and the passports that you currently hold. The reason being is because when you send this information out, coaches do want to know, okay, how old is this player? That way they can understand, okay, is he going to be a young guy that we're going to groom up into our first team, or is he maybe more so an already established player with experience, especially if you're 28, 29 years old? And what you also want to include, like I said, is your height and your weight, and you want to include that in inches if you're sending this out to professional soccer teams or soccer agents here in the US. And then if you're sending it out in Europe, you want to convert that height into centimeters. That's the metric that they go by. And so this is just making the information easier for them to understand. That way they don't have to do the conversions on their own. The same is true with your weight. In the US, we do pounds, and in Europe, they do kilograms. So you want to include both sets of information. That way it's easier for the coach to know and get a better understanding of who you are as a player. As always, guys, too, you want to include the positions that you can play. That way they kind of know where you might fit within their team. Now, guys, the passport section, I think, is one of the most important sections that you can have on your resume, and you need to list it. Because if you have an EU passport, now I'm currently trying to get my Italian citizenship, but if you have an EU passport, and that's European Union, if you have a passport from countries that are in the European Union, it is a lot easier for you as a player if you are outside of Europe to play in Europe. So if you have that, or if you can find a way to get a European passport, whether, like I said, you can get it through your parents, or, if you also are married, usually you can get it through your spouse as well. Different things that I'll actually make a video about that as well, going more in depth on how you can actually get a European passport. But guys, if you can get one, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you get a European passport. Now, as a US citizen, you can hold two passports. So you can still keep your United States passport, and then you can keep your European passport. And this is helpful because clubs now, if you're sending this information out to clubs in Europe, they now know, okay, he has a European passport. By having a European passport, you no longer count as a foreign player on their team. You don't take up a foreign roster spot. And they don't necessarily have to pay you as much because there is a minimum for foreign players that they have to make if a club signs them. And sometimes teams financially cannot afford to pay a foreign player. So if you're sending this out and you have a European passport and you don't include it, you might be limiting yourself in the opportunities that you can get with soccer teams because you have not included this information. Like I said, guys, foreign players take up a foreign roster spot, which there's only so many a team can have. They also have to be paid a minimum amount of salary, which usually is a lot compared to what the club is used to paying. So that's why, when they bring in a foreign player, you usually have to be better than a lot of the team in order for them to justify spending that kind of money on you. Like I said, guys, I'll go into further detail on this a little bit later. But like I said, passports, very, very important. It also helps an agent in terms of where they think they can market you as a player and get you other professional soccer opportunities. So moving on, guys, we're going to go to the achievement section. These are like awards and achievements that you have made, not only as a player individually, but also as a team collectively. Like I said, here in Sweden, when I was playing overseas in 2016, we actually earned promotion. So that's something that I would include. Back when I was in high school, I also was able to get the Indiana men's soccer Gatorade State Player of the Year award. That's something that I've included as well, along with being a high school All-American. So if you have these awards and you can put them in, like I said, definitely go ahead and do that. It's just another way of distinguishing yourself from everyone else and every other player that's sending this out to professional soccer teams and soccer agents. Last and not least, guys, your references. So what I would do is list your head coaches that you've played for in the past. Usually it's for teams up here that you've played for. Like I said, I've listed my head coach here for IFK Lidingö. And then also I believe my head coach for Märsta as well. This was actually a head coach that I had a trial with over in Sweden. And he really, really liked me. He actually helped me get an opportunity with IFK Lidingö, and he kind of helped jumpstart my career in Sweden. So I've used him as a reference as well. You can include agents as well as a reference. I know soccer players do that as well, especially if they're represented by an agent, or any scouts that have seen you play that can vouch for you. Really, your references is just a respected coach or person within the soccer industry that can kind of vouch for you as a player and say, yes, this guy is a quality player. That way they can contact them. But that kind of wraps up the resume, guys, and how I would structure it. Like I said, this is just one way of doing it. I've seen it done many different ways. I've actually gotten a lot of great feedback from people within the soccer industry on having a resume like this. They've said it's well put together, information was clear, easy to find, and if you can make it easier on them, the more likely they're actually going to read your resume and actually take a look at you rather than having a resume that's not put together well. Like I said, guys, I'll go ahead and have this resume on my website soon enough for you guys. Like I said, just got to get that up and running, and you guys can download it for free and then put in your information. That way you have it as well. Like I said to you guys, want to also note, if you guys want to change anything, if you guys can't put things in here, like I said, with playing with such and such player who used to play for the Swedish national team or whatever, put your stats. I've also done that as well, and that's gotten great feedback as well. But this resume for me has done the best. So find what works for you and send it out to those professional soccer teams and soccer agents. That way you guys can get more opportunities.
And with that being said, guys, that wraps up today's video on how to make a soccer resume or football CV. Now in the comment section, guys, let me know what else you guys think should be included on your soccer resume. Not just your references and your contact information and a list of where you've played in the past. I'd love to know what else you guys think should be included as well. As always, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you could share this video with any other soccer players that you think need help on how to make a soccer resume, whether they want to play at the collegiate level or play professionally, whether it be here in the United States or abroad in Europe, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could do that for me. As always, guys, thank you again for watching Footballer's Advice, and I'll see you in the next video.